Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. Welcome to Hunting for Answers, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Hunter, and today we're highlighting a case that began in the quiet suburb of Maple Grove, Minnesota. On New Year's Eve 2019, a 28-year-old mother and real estate agent drove to what she believed was a routine home showing. She arrived professional and prepared, ready to help a prospective client find their dream home. But there was no client, only a trap. Within minutes, she was forced into a U-Haul. About 3 hours later, she would be found in a Minneapolis alley, her hands bound, shot multiple times. This is the story of Monique Baugh. Monique Latrice Leanna Baugh was born on October 17, 1991. She was 28 years old when her life was taken. Her family has said Monique was loving, joyful, and full of life. They described her as someone who lit up a room, a woman who made people feel welcome and deeply cherished her family. Monique worked as a realtor with Chris Lindahl Real Estate in the Twin Cities. She took her career seriously. But more than anything, she was a mother. Monique had 2 daughters, just 3 years old and 1 year old at the time of her death. She lived in North Minneapolis with their father, John Mitchell Momo, in the 4800 block of Humboldt Avenue North. December 31st, 2019. While most people were preparing to ring in the new year, Monique was simply trying to finish her workday. That afternoon, she received a call on her personal cell phone. The woman on the other end identified herself as Lisa Pulowski, claiming to be interested in touring a home in Maple Grove. Prosecutors later said the voice belonged to Elsa Segura, a former Hennepin County probation officer. Court records show the phone number used was a disposable phone, one investigators traced back to a man named Cedric Berry. Shortly after 3:00 p.m., Monique arrived at the Maple Grove home. She was driving her BMW, there for work, prepared for a showing. But there was no client. Moments later, a U-Haul arrived. 2 men confronted Monique and forced her inside. Her wrists were bound with duct tape. Prosecutors said Monique suffered multiple injuries. Some of her acrylic nails were torn off. She had cuts and bruises, and one of her teeth was chipped. She was alive when she was taken. For more than 3 hours, Monique was held captive. While she was being held in the back of the U-Haul, the plan moved forward to her home on Humboldt Avenue in North Minneapolis. Around 5:30 p.m., a masked gunman used Monique's keys to enter the townhouse. Inside, John was home with their 2 young daughters. The gunman opened fire. Mitchell Momo was shot multiple times. The children were inside the home when it unfolded. Mitchell Momo survived. Monique did not. At 6:38 p.m., Minneapolis police received a ShotSpotter alert, an automated gunshot detection system, in the 1300 block of Russell Avenue North. Officers found Monique in an alley. Her hands were still bound with duct tape. She had been shot multiple times and died from her wounds. Back at the townhouse, Wanda Williams Baugh rushed to the scene. Police were still inside the home. Her daughters were there. And then on the floor, Wanda saw something. A purple key with a green butterfly. the same key Wanda had made for Monique. In that moment, she realized that this was not a random attack. The reason Monique was targeted had nothing to do with her. It led back to a personal dispute between two men. Lyndon Akeem Wiggins, also known as Black Bag LA, had a falling out with John Mitchell Momo. Prosecutors said Wiggins believed Mitchell Momo had betrayed him, including over drug-related matters. They said that belief, whether true or not, fueled a desire for retaliation. Prosecutors said Wiggins became convinced that John Mitchell Momo had cooperated with law enforcement about his drug operation. There was no evidence presented that Monique had any knowledge of this dispute. But prosecutors said that, in Wiggins' mind, Mitchell Momo had to pay. And instead of confronting him directly, prosecutors said Wiggins chose a different path. One they described as deliberate and calculated. They said he targeted Monique, not for who she was, but because of her relationship to John Mitchell Momo. Prosecutors said Wiggins did not act alone. They told the jury he recruited 3 people to help carry out the plan. Elsa Segura, Wiggins' girlfriend at the time, made the initial contact. Using a fake name, she called Monique and set up the phony home showing in Maple Grove. Cedric Berry purchased the disposable phone and rented the U-Haul used in the kidnapping. And Barry Davis, Barry's brother-in-law, helped carry out the abduction and attack. Prosecutors described the scheme as coordinated and premeditated. One they said was designed to lure Monique, use her as leverage, and retaliate against John Mitchell Momo. The evidence was extensive. Surveillance footage placed the same U-Haul at the Maple Grove home, and later in North Minneapolis. Inside the vehicle, investigators found zip ties and press-on fingernails believed to belong to Monique. Forensic testing found multiple of Cedric Berry's fingerprints on the duct tape used to bind her. His DNA was also found on items inside the U-Haul. Barry Davis's DNA was found on the vehicle's gear shift, and ballistics analysis matched .45 caliber shell casings from both crimes. Mitchell Momo told police he could not identify the masked shooter, but he did name Lyndon Wiggins as someone he believed may have wanted to harm him. In June 2021, Cedric Berry and Barry Davis were convicted on all counts. Both men were later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Elsa Segura was convicted later in 2021 and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But in January 2024, the Minnesota Supreme Court overturned that conviction, citing insufficient evidence under the jury instructions given and errors in those instructions. In September 2024, Segura pled guilty to kidnapping to commit great bodily harm. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Lyndon Wiggins was convicted in 2021 and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That conviction was overturned in 2024 after the Minnesota Supreme Court found faulty jury instructions. A retrial began in the fall of 2024. On November 4th, 2024, a jury found Wiggins guilty on all 4 counts. On December 23rd, he was sentenced, once again, to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At sentencing, Monique's family spoke. Her mother told the court that Monique had nothing, absolutely nothing, to do with the dispute that cost her life. Wanda told the court that Monique's daughters keep their mother's memory close. She said both girls say goodnight to their mother. They kiss and hug her photo every night. The judge described Wiggins as the architect of a cold, calculated scheme. Wiggins declined to speak. Wanda and her two granddaughters continued to honor Monique's memory through a children's book, Ruby and Onyx and the Magical Pillow Adventure. Loved Ones also appeared in Hulu's true crime series, Me Hereafter, helping to bring Monique's story to a wider audience. Monique Baugh's story underscores the very real risks real estate agents face and the devastating ripple effect of violence. Years later, sentences have been imposed. No sentence can bring Monique back, but her family can know the people responsible will never have the opportunity to harm another family. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of Monique Baugh as they continue to navigate life without her. As we close out this episode, remember that sharing Monique's story helps spread awareness and keep stories like hers from being forgotten. Follow Hunting for Answers for updates on this case and others like it. Subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more true crime stories and case updates. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Until next time. Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from the Black Effect Podcast Network, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.